Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the hearing to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and the traditional land of the Ojibwe, Cree, Dakota people, and then the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this morning, introducing the people that are panel members. To my left is Linda McFadden, and to her left is Laurie Davidson. And our recording secretary is Stephen Lund, who is going to be our secretary. And representing the city from the assessment department is Clayton Deitchen. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you'll be placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. It'll be then your turn to be admitted to the meeting. Kindly follow the City of Winnipeg Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you to the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak in respect to your property. Once your hearing has been concluded, you may leave the meeting. This morning we'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment roll according to the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that the applicants and the assessor make are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence by market value by the Board of Revision. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it, along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing, and issue a written order mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respects to application may be appealed to the Management Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench, now referred to as King's Bench, and the matter pertains to application for exemption from taxation. If you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this morning, I will confirm matters to be addressed, which each applicant following the swearing in will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that other applicants may have, and will then be the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Excuse me. Each side will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application is brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this morning. The session will close after all application has been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. We'll now have our secretary swear in the assessor.
Mr. Deitchen, please state your full name.
Clayton Deitchen.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And Matthew, should I swear you in?
Yeah, I'll get sworn in too, please.
Okay. Please state your full name.
Matthew Stephen Barocas.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. We will first deal with 440 Assiniboine Avenue. And I think the property is represented by Mr. Badger, so we'll have you either affirmed or sworn in.
Mr. Badger, if you please come on camera.
Yeah, I can swear in.
Please state your full name.
Jeff Badger.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Badger.
Good morning.
You're familiar with the routine, so we will get right to it. Mr. Deitchen, the floor is yours.
The file number is 22772. Roll number 120-926-97000. Address 440 Assiniboine Avenue. The classification is residential 1, liability taxable, vacant residential 2 land. The zoning is D for downtown living. The net area, accessible area, is 25,800 square feet with the net rate of $52.44 a square foot, giving you the land value of $1,353,000. Scroll down to page 3 of the land sale comparables. I give a couple downtown living zoning and then a couple other, because it's pretty hard to find downtown living zoning comparable sales. They range from $53.61 a square foot to $145.96 a square foot. The ages of the sales range from October 2012 to August 2018. The sizes range from 6,034 square feet to 17,813 square feet. You scroll down to page 4, got pictures of the subject property along with the zoning picture. On page 5, I have pictures of the comparable sales. Page 6, I have more comparable sales. And that is my evidence.
I lost my sound.
Hang on, Jeff. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay. Mr. Deitchen, that's your presentation, the city's presentation?
Yes.
Okay. I thank you. Mr. Badger, questions of the assessor?
Yes. Mr. Dyson, I was looking at the zoning on this particular property. You got it listed as downtown living. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you aware of any secondary zoning requirements for the property?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with, have you ever heard of the legislation zone? That's a secondary zoning requirement about height restrictions.
I have seen some stuff on the notes about this.
Rivers and streams, are you familiar with the requirements of rivers and streams? For properties being adjacent to the river?
Is it in your brief for review?
I do, I have a couple lines on it, but are you familiar in regards to building within the flood zone?
No, I'm not.
Okay. In terms of the, basically it appears to me that this was sort of done on a per square foot basis, based on your mass appraisal modeling.
Yes.
With the mass appraisal model, would it take into account any of these special zoning criteria in terms of its limitation as to its use?
Yes. We don't assess the full area for properties that are on the river. The accessible area is 25,800. I can't remember the exact number of the actual size of the property.
It's about 10,000 square.
But it's about 10,000 square feet less than the total
To account for that.
to account for the river.
The 25,000 is the total property, is it not?
No, it is not. I can find the exact number here.
Mr. Patrick?
Well, I guess there's a bit of a dispute then on the square footage. I have the total area as being 25,800 square feet, exclusive of the floodway area.
No, it is not. I'm just trying to pull it up right now. If you give me a second.
So for these properties that front on the Red River like this, we don't assess the entire size of the property. I know we discussed this last time with the Board of Revision with another applicant. What's displayed online, it says land area, that's the accessible area. The actual square footage, I believe, is 36,000 something. We're pulling it up for you right now, but I can confirm that the land is not 25,000.
35.
So the lot area is 35,843. The assessed square foot is 25,800. So that 10,000, 11,000 square foot fronting along the river, we are aware that there are setbacks. It's not buildable, so therefore we don't assess the whole property because it's not usable. We do this for properties on the river.
But can the board, could you just let me do some multiplication? Give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can carry on. Oh,
Right.
my questions, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Your comparable 3, would you know the number of units that were built in that property?
No, I do not. I did not look at it like that.
And the last question I have is in regards to the evaluation of property. Is it fair to say that the smaller the site, the higher the value is per square foot versus sites that are larger? When you take a look at your comparables and you see that range, would that be true to say that?
Yeah, all else being the same, typically as a property gets larger, the economies of scale comes into play. So there will be a lower sale price per square foot on the larger comparable property. Say it's right next door.
Are you familiar? Oh, that's okay. Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden, questions?
So would you say that your comparable number 1, 390 Assiniboine, is probably the most similar? It's one that's a little bit closer in size, but this is in the same area that would be restricted by the same riverbank type of thing. And yet the cost per square foot is significantly higher than this piece of land. Can you explain that?
Yes, I would say comparable 1 and 2 are the most similar. So.
However, the price per square foot, the sale price on that is quite significantly higher. Correct?
Yes.
What would be the reason for that?
So for that one, you can look at the sale date on the property. Those are older sales. There's one from 2012. There's one from 2017. It is from a different market time. It is difficult finding sales of D-zone properties that really don't happen all the time for vacant land. So in regards to the sale price per square foot, just to allude to Mr. Badger's last question, talking about the economies of scale, there they are smaller when you look at their land area. So given that they're smaller, it only stands to reason that the price per square foot is going to be higher. Unfortunately, these are the only two D-zone properties we had for our analysis. It's not ideal, but we can only work with what we have.
Okay, thank you. That's all my question.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
Just a quick question. In terms of the model, since you raised that, this is done by your modeling. Did you go in after and make any adjustments for the river, et cetera, or is that done automatically through your model?
It's done through the model.
Did you make any adjustments subsequent in terms of examining what it looked like?
No.
Okay. And were the comps chosen by the model or chosen by the assessor?
I chose.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I just have just a follow-up question in regards to the subject property. If you look at comp number 1, to follow through with the subject being 25,800 square feet and this being 17,813, is this lot larger than as followed through, or the subject being like 36, but you're only assessing the 25.8? Is this the same where the riverbank comes into play?
Yeah, we do that with the riverfront properties. The unbuildable part doesn't get calculated in the assessable square footage.
You know offhand, whether it's the same proportion as the subject?
It ought to be. We could look it up quick for you.
Well, it's, like roughly. Would it be that same?
We'd have to look it up, but it definitely would have had the actual square footage clawed back in relation to the assessable.
So the square feet that we're talking about then is the only, it's not the true size of the property, it's the accessible footage.
Yeah, the model recognizes the fact that you can't build right up to the edge of the river.
So it's tough to find sales on the river, so you did find one.
Yeah.
And the other, 2, 3, and 4 are not on the river, obviously.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Badger, the floor is yours.
Okay. I was just 1 second. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Go back to my submission. points. You've heard most of the details, so I'll just sort of skim through it. Right now, in terms of the land area, I disagree with what the assessment department is, and I'm sorry, I mean, the proper way would be to have someone do a takeoff on it. But what I do have here, when I've done my numbers here, I have an average width of, an average width of the property being 150 square feet and a depth of 225 square feet. That gives me a figure of about 28,000 square feet. I'm from the information I've always had before, the site was 25.8. That was never in dispute before. When I calculate the area that's in the floodplain zone, if you're taking a look at my exhibit 1, the area in the floodplain zone represents 21% of 25,800 square feet. So I'm in disagreement. I guess the only way of properly identifying that would be to do have someone snap off the dimensions. But when I did my quick math here, I would believe that 35,000 doesn't exist. That's just my opinion based on my quick review of it. I do have dimensions. You'll see on my exhibit 1, so you can do some fast math yourself, I guess, if you're going to take a look at this. So I guess I'm in dispute of the aggregate size of the site, but and the modeling that I've done and coming up in terms of the evaluation, it doesn't matter, because I think the value per square foot is not as relevant as the land cost per unit. It would be a more proper approach to take in regards to assessing this property or evaluating the property. And I'll get into it as I'm going along in my evaluation model. I just want to reiterate that the site is in what they call the downtown living sector. It is a residential sector. And it's also within the area there are limitations as to, in regards of the height. The legislature core height restriction zone encapsulates this zone here, which also keeps it down within that 6th story. We can't start going up in the air higher. Like the one comparable D condominiums down the street, they're significantly higher, almost double the height that we're talking about. The height restriction then would impose the number of units that you can put on the site. The last thing I wanted to talk about would be the rivers and streams controls. The property, about 21% of it sits in what they call the flood zone. It's actually the steep embankment there down to the river's edge. You can't build within a flood zone. Only the property that's up in the floodplain zone you can build in here. So the majority, if you take a look at my exhibit 1, the site plan, you'll see a green line up in the top left-hand corner of the map. That's the that elevation there is your elevation to determine your dike line if there was to be a super flood. You can build in the rest of the site there, except for the stuff that's south of that yellow line, which is in the actual flood zone. I'd like to also draw your attention to a legal requirement. There is an easement on the property for the river walk down at the base there. And we can't build, it's in the flood zone anyways, but it's also an easement that would disallow any building within that zone. In regards to the shape of the site, does affect density. You'll know on the top of the site, the frontage is only 110 feet. What that causes is when you, usually in these buildings here on this type of site, you have to have parking. So you either go in the ground or you go above the ground. If you go in the ground, it's expensive. If we go above the ground, you're losing floors of residential suites that you can put on the site. But in any event, the frontage here is 110 feet, and there are setback requirements on your side yards. To have at this 110 square feet frontage, it does expand out, but in regards to the 110, to have a very efficient parking structure, you usually strive to get 120 feet available room to be able to put what they refer to as a double loaded parking structure. In this particular case, and I'll be showing you an exhibit that shows the massing on the site, we would be restricted to a single loaded parkade, which reduces the number of cars that you can put on the site without going multiple floors up that eats into your residential component. What I'd like to do is maybe we can flip over to Exhibit 2 is a massing study that was done on the site by an architectural firm. You can take a look there. You see the green block is the available land to build on. You'll see that on the front end of the site, where I was referring to the single loaded parking part, it does flare out towards the back where you could get a portion of it double loaded. On this particular plan, keeping it at one level underground, you can get 65 parking stalls in there. If you're building a residential building, you would like to have, you're not obligated, but you'd like to have at least one stall per residential unit. The typical floors here, you see the box to the right. It's a blow up. You can get 9 residential units at sizes of 550 to 650 square feet. I was just in my head, you wouldn't go 100% of those small units. You'd have a mix of 1s and 2s bedrooms. The 550 to 650 is typical of a 1 bedroom. A 2 bedroom would be bigger, so you'd probably lose you would lose the 9 per floor if you were to have a mix of 1s and 2s. I mentioned before the restrictions, the height restrictions is 6 stories. So if you can go 6 stories times, let's say 8, you're looking at around 48 units in total availability for the site. That smaller site that's we were talking about there is a very high value per square foot. They have a total of 92 units on a similar site. So you can see here how the zoning requirements, the height restrictions, and the legislature being there with that blockage there, it severely impacts the site in terms of its availability density. I'm going to now turn to, in terms of evaluating the site, I handed in a second exhibit yesterday. Is it okay if we read from that rather than from the one that was attached? The one that I handed in with my report.
Only got 2 model you submitted yesterday?
Yes. So we can go from that. Is that correct?
Was that?
I can use that table, can I?
What was submitted yesterday?
I had made a slight error in my table 3, exhibit 3, the evaluation model, and what I did do was I handed in a correction, as well as I added in one of the assessor's properties. I added into my model on it. So I was going to go from my exhibit 3, which has 3 comparables instead of the 2 comparables.
We don't have that.
We were treating it as rebuttal.
Are you submitting it as a rebuttal?
In my
It's not really a.
It's
I think there's new evidence, so I think it's a little bit late for new evidence.
not new evidence because I'm all I did was added on the assessors comparable 170 505 St. Mary's. I just added it to my model because I was involved in that particular project. And what I want to do, because I basically what I want to do is take the assessor's information that he submitted and just divide it so you can come up with a cost per residential unit, land value per residential unit.
Well, I think that probably the city would be in opposition to any new material that they don't have.
Well, they have it. They did not do a calculation on the number of residential suites in that particular comparable.
Like if it'll speed things along, even though like because it already is in our evidence, technically it's kind of already been read in. If you want to look at it at a per suite basis, just to speed things along, if you're going to do it verbally anyway, maybe it'll be faster if you just.
I think the verbal aspect would be required. So Mr. Badger, proceed.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my evaluation model, I used two comparables plus the 505 St. Mary's comparable properties. The reason I use these are more current properties within the area, so I felt they were warranted, and they're housing projects that have just recently been completed within the last 2 years. Comparable one would be 206 248 Good Street. The sale price was, and this is where I made a correction. My first information that was available to me showed it as it's been sold at $2 million. I went to the real estate agent to ask him, and he came back and confirmed there were some last minute negotiations, and it was $1,850,000. The sale price was $1,850,000. The site area is 36,000 square feet. The land cost per square footage was $51 per square foot. There was 143 units built on that site. That gives you a land cost per residential unit in terms of the density factor there of $12,937 per residential unit. The next one that I used was 175 Conley Street. That's a building that I was directly involved in. The sale price in that was $1,739,000. The site was very, very small there. It was only 13,244. This one is like a stone's throw across the street from the Great West Life, so it's also impacted from the legislature in terms of the height restriction or the blockage of the Golden Boy. That because of the tight site, I worked out $131 per square foot. There was 110 units built on that site, and the land value per residential suite was $15,810. Then the assessment department had put in 505 St. Mary's, and that's another building that I was directly involved in. The land transfer price was $1,050,000. The land area was $15,000. The price per square foot was just under $70 per square foot. The value per residential unit was $8,800 per residential unit. So when you look at this and if you're just doing some simple averaging of the square footage in your comparables, it gives you a huge range of $51 to $131 per square foot. That's why I had indicated before you should not be relying on the value per square foot. We should be relying more on what's the value per residential unit that you can put on the site. Developers or investors looking at land, they want to know what can we do on the site. The number of units they can put on the site is probably the most important thing, rather than what the size of the site is. You'll see there, I mean, if I just took the average square footage, I mean, that gives you a value of $1.8 million. But if I'm looking at the range, and if I use the average range per residential unit, that would give you a value of only $900,000. For my analysis, what I did do, I used $15,000 per residential, $15,000 per residential unit in terms of the massing model that shows you the restrictions and how many units can build. And I said there is a range of between 45 and 60 units. I took the upper range and I applied a value of $15,000 per residential unit, which gives you my final recommendation of the value of $1,050,000. So that's my submission.
Thank you, Mr. Badger. Mr. Deitchen and company. Any questions of the applicant?
Yeah. Just to confirm, with the downtown living sector zoning, you're saying the restriction is 6 stories maximum?
Well, you can go higher if you ask for variances, but I also have that legislature height restriction too. And then parking is going to restrict the number of units. So there's 3 factors affecting the modeling there.
Is that bylaw in your evidence for us to look at?
No, I just make reference to the bylaw. You saw the modeling for the parking stalls. I can only get. Sorry, I have to go back to that page. But so it's parking, it's the legislature, and it's the downtown zoning.
I just wondered because I was looking at 300 Assiniboine that was recently built, and it's a D-zoned one on the river as well. That's 25 stories in height.
That's 390 Assiniboine Avenue?
300.
300, yeah. Oh, the landings, okay. Those were variances.
Okay, so it's not, we don't have the bylaw for D, and we see that they can build far higher than 6 stories on the river. So I'm not sure how that dovetails with your contention that you can only go 6 stories high.
That's right. Are you familiar with the history of 390 Assiniboine Avenue?
Well, no, I'm just asking you about the D-zoned height restriction you're contending, and then what we're trying to base it off of. We see that there's a building that, an apartment of 25 stories, they got built down the street, D-zoned on the river. But you're telling us that you can only build up to 6 stories, but we don't have the bylaw to look at. That's all.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the commercial performance of 390 Assiniboine Avenue?
The what performance?
The commercial performance of it.
The commercial.
What happened to it? The history of it.
Well, we're looking at vacant land value, not looking at the commercial performance of a property that's not the subject.
I guess what I would suggest to you that it's not a good comparable because basically went into bankruptcy. It's a factor that to jam the site like that, they went down deep with underground parking.
That's a condo, isn't it? Is that a condo?
Yeah, but it went into bankruptcy before it even got up because it was so expensive to build. And all the issues are going down.
That's not good. I don't like to hear that. But we're not talking about 390. We're talking about the value of vacant land. And I'm talking about whether you can build higher than 6 stories.
Yeah. In other words, I guess in terms of land value per residential, I don't believe that's a very good comparable because they blew their brains out on it. It shows you that from a commercial point of view, you should be buying. You can only afford to pay about $16,000 per residential unit.
Dr. Barocas, any more questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question regarding the 206, 248 Good Street. Are you aware that it was a package multi-role sale?
Yes. But it was sold to one person, it was packaged together. Sold to one group.
Was it multiple vendors?
No. Oh, well, there's 3 family members, okay? So there might have been 2 different names, but it was sold as one transaction.
West Broadway is very different than Assiniboine Avenue, wouldn't you say?
In terms of location, I think it's similar, being close to the legislature ground in Great West Life.
Like the character of the neighborhood.
On Broadway Avenue there, right by Memorial. Yeah, I mean, that's why I did at the end of the game, I did use land value, which is higher than what they paid for the land.
I'm just seeing like you're using, that one sold for 56.55 at 36,000 square feet. We're at a little bit lower than that. Doesn't that support our valuation?
I'm sorry, which one you're looking at now?
I'm looking at the package sale on Good.
Yes.
It says it's sold for 56.55 a square foot. We're assessed at, I believe, what are we, 52.44 on the river. Doesn't that sale support the model valuation?
I basically saying that unfortunately with the model, it doesn't take into account, well, you say it does, but anyways, we should not be relying on the value per square foot. As you can see, it's out to lunch. It ranges from $50 up to $140. We're talking about. What's more appropriate is a value of the number of units that you can put on the site, what you can use it for, the use. You have to consider the use of the property.
Yeah.
And I provided you a model that shows you we can only get 60 units in there. But the Good Street only has a value of under $13,000 per residential unit. And I'm using 15,000.
In terms of coming to that calculation, do you have an excerpt from the bylaw that we can take a look at to confirm that?
I could send it to you. Regardless of the bylaw, if you look at the site, and I showed you in terms of the 6 stories, this number. I mean, someone could buy both for variances, go higher, go 3 levels in the ground, and they're going to blow their brains out, as would happen with D. Okay, I'm showing you this, that a viable model for the site that restricts it to anywhere between 45 and 60. And I've taken the 60 units, and they're all at the 60. We're talking about 550 square feet.
Let's do questions and answers at this point. Okay.
Okay. So I got another. Yeah, fine. I got another question. Just in terms, so that bylaw you're saying is meant to protect visibility to the Golden Boy or the legislation grounds? Is that
Yes.
interpretation of it? Yes.
Well,
Okay.
that's the name of it. It's the legislation. It's a sightline thing. They don't want it blocking. Someone built something either, blocking it from people who are further away from the site.
Okay, so 175 Colony. I know you and I did that one maybe about a year ago. That's even closer to the legislation grounds, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, they got a variance on it.
Okay, and they built a 12-story apartment on it, did they not?
Yes. Yes.
Those are all our questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden, questions?
Just clarification on Exhibit 3. You've got written here 25,800 square feet usable space, but if I understood correctly, you were arguing that 25,800 was not the usable space. That's the assessor's position, not yours. Is that correct?
That's what I got in brackets. Yes, I have to. I admit right now, when it came to the assessment department's telling me it's 36, it took me off guard. I do know, I see on the table that I got usable. But
Right, but what you
I did
told
like
us
the-
was that the total size was 25.8 and that you would lose 10,000, which would mean the usable space under your contention would be 1,800. Am I understanding that correctly?
if I'm in the error of my calculation of usable area, in my evaluation model, I'm relying solely on value per residential unit. So again, I say if it's 50 or if it's $140 per square foot, that's irrelevant. It's the density and the value per unit. That's what I'm relying on.
Understood, thank you. Also, you've said that parking would restrict it, that you would want about at least one parking spot per unit. However, you're talking about at top 60 units, but the mapping model you showed us gives us 65 units. So I don't see parking as being a restriction. You could actually have more.
Well, but if I'm restricted to 6 stories, I wouldn't want to go in the ground more than one level. Like it's
Correct.
usually it's pushed up.
One level,
Too expensive.
one level, Mr. Badger gives you 65 parking spots on your model, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and you're required to have some parking. I mean, that's visitor parking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
Just one quick question. So your model is based, from what I'm hearing, on this per unit. So it assumes no variances whatsoever would be requested or received. So this is kind of within the existing guidelines and law rules as you see it on right now, the number of units, and then of course the cost per unit.
Yeah, well, the assessed value has to be based on a legal use. If it's nothing stopping an investor to gamble, I guess typically what they would do is they maybe offer something higher on the assumption they can get it, but it would be conditional to that. I don't think too many people would roll the dice on.
You mentioned
variance.
sorry, you mentioned in terms of the assessor's comparables and yours that I can't quite recall now. You indicated some had received variances on their property.
Yes, to get the height.
Right. Was it just the one property that received
Well,
that?
well, the only one I'm familiar with is assuming that's why that D model had variances to get up there, and the West Broadway one, the 175 Colony Street, it is a high building, and that's that one had to get variances.
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't know if you want to, just interesting history, but 175 Colony is a joint venture with the church, and to get the value they wanted, we had to get the variances to be able to get the density up to justify the value that they were trying to negotiate.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden has one more question for you, Mr. Badger.
I noticed on your first page, Mr. Badger, that you have the previous assessment at 1,230,000. Was that
The
appealed?
Good Street. Good Street, you talking about?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On
Yeah,
your
right.
page, or on the second page, you've got summary of salient facts, and you've got a
That's
previous assessment at 1.2 million.
What I'm referring to there is that's a previous assessment. So I am arguing something that's less. I did not appeal at the last go around, but with the current situation, in land values and stuff like that, the owners asked me to appeal it. So that's the last cycle's appraised value.
Right. So you're suggesting that the value of the land has gone down in the ensuing time.
I'm just saying. Well, I'm saying that it was based on a mass appraisal, and we did not appeal it. I was going to put in the previous cycle. We did appeal it. We got it down in the $900,000 range. But I was told that past past decisions weren't or something that I can't bring in as evidence, or you can't rely on what the past evaluations were.
Correct, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Assessors, summary if you wish.
We actually have a rebuttal that we're gonna put through. Quick, the clerk knows it's coming, so if you could please distribute that, that would be great.
Mr. Badger, I just sent you an email with it. My panel members, just give me one moment.
Should appear at the bottom of this, when it's there.
Okay, I've just added it.
All right.
Where did it come in at the bottom?
No, it came in the section at the top, yeah.
And Mr. Badger, did you receive it?
I'm just waiting for it to come through. So it's,
Okay.
Mr. Badger, do you receive it?
well, I haven't received it yet.
Let us know when you're there.
Okay.
You say okay?
Oh, it just came down. Yeah.
Still waiting?
Oh, you got someone to do the calculation?
We did a rough calculation with our GIS. We did it a few,
Okay, that's good. Okay, so
3 or 4 times, and we got it around the 36,000 square feet. The total in our system is 35,843, so it is very close.
okay. I did mention that. Well, that's all I want to say is if I could have been wrong, and I guess I'm wrong. But I rely more on the value per residential unit in terms of its capability in terms of density.
Any more questions, Mr. Badger?
I have no more questions.
Ms. McFadden?
No, thank you.
Ms. Davidson?
No more questions.
All right. Assessors, summary if you wish.
Yeah, just a quick summary. Like, we don't have the excerpt from the bylaws saying that it's only 6 stories. There's 300 Assiniboine, which is D zone, 25 stories. There's a condo across the street that's 16 stories. We didn't even bring up that's D zoned. There are buildings around there. You know, driving around the ledge, there's high-rise buildings around there. We don't have evidence that there's a 6-story restriction, and the comp support our model valuation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Badger, final word?
The argument in terms of density that I put forth to you has been raised with the assessment department in the previous appeals. And by agreement, we resolved it based on that modeling diagram that we had done. So then in regards to the evaluation model, it's my opinion that the proper way of assessing it would be to rely more on the number of units, because we're talking about residential property. It's all based on how many units can you put on the property. And so regardless if I made an error on the square footage, at the end of the game, I stand behind that we can only, and I used the higher level, not 45, I used 60 units as being the density for the site on a commercial feasible basis. And I'm saying that that's based on without us having to go for variances, and stuff like that. I'm not suggesting that a buyer might take the risk and do that, but we have to look at it in terms of what's the current rules for the site. So I relied on a value of $15,000 per residential units at 60 units. That's how I came up with my recommended evaluation.
I thank you, Mr. Badger, for your presentation and results very soon. So thank you for coming via Zoom.
And thank you. I'm allowed to sit in on Sid's appeal?
Pardon me?
Is Sid's story next?
We are going to take about a 5-minute break. So we'll kind of reconvene in 5 minutes.
See me?
Okay, we'll call the hearing back to order and we will have Mr. Story sworn in.
Mr. Story, please state your full name.
Sid Story.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Story.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. How are you today?
That's lovely. We're gonna go to 120 Transcona Boulevard. So assessors, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property.
File number 223344, address 120 Transcona Boulevard. It is a residential 2 taxable property, vacant residential 2. The zoning is RMU, that's residential mixed use. The net area of the lot is 105,809 square feet. Our net rate is $21.62 a square foot, giving a total value of $2,288,000. You scroll down to page 4, we have our comparables. I'm going to ask if this one could be confirmed because I contacted the owner and this will be superseded by improvements for 2023. If that's all right, Sid.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Clayton. Could you say it again? I was concentrating on my paper.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, this lot, there's already apartments built on it, and it will be superseded. Like it's gonna be so.
Yes, as will 140, Clayton. 120 and 140 are well in construction. So these will get superseded. You're correct.
140 is completed as well.
Yes, 120 and 140 are in construction right now as we speak.
I spoke with the owner. He said that 120 is being occupied as of August 1st, 2022.
That's passed.
Correct. So then the 2023 assessment will be changed.
Yes, there's going to be subs issued on, I'll say all these properties, but the 3 properties because they'll be on the rolls this year in the next few months. So what is your question is?
I was just asking for confirmation of the value for 120 Transcona Boulevard because it will be effective prior to the 2023.
Yes, but so will 140. And you're saying the reason that is because the owner said that it's being occupied in August? Did you say that?
Yeah, I spoke with the owner. I called the owner, Keith, and he confirmed that. Yeah, he confirmed the August 1st, 2022 occupancy for 120 Transcona.
Right. So, okay, so we know there's going to be a supplemental issue?
Yeah, for the whole 120.
So are you, and I'm sorry, I'm asking the questions. I'm new to Zoom. So what you're asking is that we agree to confirm 120. What about 140? Why not confirm it as well?
Is it still under construction?
Oh,
Yes.
Gentlemen, we only have on the docket 120. So let's deal with 120.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk about something that we don't have.
Okay.
So let's deal with 120.
Just keep going through the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Let's carry on then.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, page 4 has my land sale comparables.
Mhm.
They range from $19.38 a square foot to $28.13 a square foot. They range in size from 54,173 square feet up into 72,473. They are all RMU residential mixed use zoned properties. They ranged in sale dates from August 2018 to January 2021. If you scroll down to the next following pages, I have the subject, property picture, and zoning pictures as well, along with the comparable sales aerial views as well. And that is my evidence.
Okay.
Mr. Deitchen, that's your presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Story, questions of the assessor?
Yes, okay. The subject site is 2.4 acres, Clayton?
Correct.
2.4 acres?
Yeah,
And,
2.429.
Pardon me?
Sorry, 2.429, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the current assessment is 953,333. Is that correct?
Sorry, you say that again?
The current assessment is 953,333.
It's in your brief.
It's in my brief.
Oh, I'm sorry, a different amount. How's that? How's that possible? Oh, per acre, correct. 922. Okay. And have you inspected the site? Have you inspected the site?
I have not.
You have not. Are you aware that this was an acquisition by the owner of surplus city lands from the city of Winnipeg?
No.
Are you aware that there's an amending agreement that established the market value of the lots at remediation cost plus subdivision? And the agreed amount between property and development and the owner is 600,000 an acre. You aware of that?
I would assume that's in your brief.
I don't have much of a brief, no, it's not. Are you familiar with the agreement whereby the city sold the property to a joint venture that they were part of? You familiar with that?
No, is that in your brief as well?
No. Are you aware that the city agreed by what's called an amending agreement to establish a value based on an appraisal by Mr. Ferguson?
I'm sorry, like, are we getting question on our evidence here, or are we getting question on stuff that's in your evidence?
Hopefully it's stuff that's in my evidence, but.
Okay, then I think we'll maybe wait till you present, and then we could cross that bridge when we get there. It's in there.
That's fine, thank you, yeah, no problem.
Mr. Story, questions of the assessor?
Yes. I'm just-
Presentation.
Yeah. I think those are all asked. I'm fine. I'll wait.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden?
I have no question. Thank you.
Ms. Davidson?
Just a quick question. When do you intend to issue the sup for the, the building, which would then be the total property?
It will be prior to the end of this year.
So it's definitely going on the 2020.
Sorry, say that again?
It'll definitely be on the 2023 roll.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Story, We are ready for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll just ask you to look at 120, that's 2.4 acres. That is, as we indicated, that property will be put on the rolls hopefully very soon. It's in construction right now. Our position is on these three properties that the appraisal provided by Mr. Ferguson as a condition of the sale, that's how the sale was based, is based on 600,000 per acre. Our position is we would like the assessment to be 600,000 an acre. On the 2.4 acres, it would be 953,333. Clayton and the chair have asked the right question about properties that are soon to be put on the assessment roll, and this will become a bit of a moot point. But I think we have to try to follow the spirit of that of the appraisal. I'm hoping that the appraisal was received by the board members. It's a heavy document. The first time we sent it through, we had to do it in parts and it didn't all come through, so I apologize. But we sent it again yesterday and I think today as rebuttal. And the appraisal, in essence, if you want to, do you have the appraisal, Mr. Chair?
Do you have the appraisal?
I don't think so.
Yes, yes. Do you have the appraisal, sir?
I don't think so. Not as far as I know. And I think you said that it was done by maybe Brent Ferguson?
Yes, Brent Ferguson did it, but we forwarded it to Clayton earlier on, a couple of days ago, and then we filed it again yesterday as rebuttal just to make sure it was filed. But you don't see it?
So you filed it as rebuttal?
Yes, we're
Yeah.
filing it as rebuttal.
So
It
then,
didn't go through the first time. It's too big a document.
Mr. Chair, we can follow the proceeding sheet for that if you'd like to take a look at it.
Mr. Chair, I have a suggestion.
Yep.
And that would be that we confirm these three assessments because there are going to be, they are going to be finished apartment buildings in the very near future. And will have to be sup anyway. And it'll give you time to read through the appraisal because it's wordy. But the appraisal was the basis upon which the lands were sold from the city of Winnipeg. And they're important. So I'd ask the board to consider confirming these three assessments that will write itself as soon as the subs come out.
Mr. Story, do I understand this correctly? You want to confirm all of these?
Yes, 120, 150, and 160.
Okay. So, but let's deal with them individually.
Okay,
Okay.
so
For the record, I think that we'll have to read them into the roll.
Okay.
And discuss them a little.
Okay.
And your wishes are to confirm.
Yes, I confirm, and that way we got time to get this appraisal in one piece. It's really multiple pieces chopped up. It's quite big, actually quite good.
I think so. Therefore, so for 120,
yes,
you wish to confirm?
2,288,000.
Yes. All right. Ms. McFadden, any questions?
I have no question.
Ms. Davidson?
Nor do I, thank you.
All right. Summation, either party?
No?
No? Okay. Let's go to 150 Transcona Boulevard. Mr. Dyson, whenever you're ready.
Yep, file number 223346, roll number 0400-726-1510, address 150 Transcona Boulevard. And I understand there's a confirmation for this property as well. So I'm just gonna leave it there then. And that is my evidence.
Mr. Story, questions?
No, I'm fine, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay. Panel members, any questions? All right, Mr. Story, you are wanting confirmation?
For 120, 150.
For 150?
Yes, 160.
All right.
Confirmed at 1,550,000, Mr. Chair.
Let's move on to the last one then, 160 Transcona
Correct.
Boulevard.
We request confirmation of 1,550,000.
Hang one second. We'll have to read it into the roll, okay? Mr. Assessor, Mr. Dychen, proceed.
File number 223347. Roll number 0400-726-1505, address 160 Transcona Boulevard, and once again ask for confirmation for this property, and that is my evidence.
Mr. Story, any questions?
No, it's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, panel members, any questions?
Thank you. No questions.
So confirming, Mr. Story, you want confirmation. And I think that ends our all the scheduled items, and this hearing is now adjourned. So thank you, Mr. Story, for
Thank
your
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, assessors. Everybody have a great day.